move out of the beginner photography zone? Well, one of the easiest ways to improve your photos doesn't have anything to do with your camera settings. It's all in the way you compose your image. So today I'm going to teach you all about composition, what it is, why it matters, and how to use it. So what is composition? In the dictionary, it says that composition is the different parts that something is made of, the way in which the different parts are organized. To me, composition is all about where you place objects in the photo. The way you arrange the objects, use different colors and tones in the photo can all create different reactions from the viewer. It could create awe, satisfaction, shock, curiosity, or bring up different emotions in the viewer, or even yourself. The way you compose your photo could be the difference between you loving your photo so much you share it all over social media, or hating it so much that you want to just screw it up, light it on fire and throw it in the bin, which is way less impressive these days with digital when you just click and delete. But I'm all for more celebrating and sharing on social media and less about the ceremonial burning of your photos. So our goal is to use composition to create super cool photos that will create a reaction from our viewer. A reaction that grabs their eyeballs and literally pulls them in to your photo. And right now you might be saying, yeah, I get it, I need to grab their attention, but how? Well, you're in luck because there's actually a plethora of ways that you can grab them by the eyeballs, and I'm going to make it as simple as possible. The best photos usually grab people's attention with the initial impact and then leads their eye around the photo like a little trail of breadcrumbs. And there's 3 ways you can do that, and I call them the 3 C's: contrast, color, and the rules of composition. So let's start with contrast. So your eyes are always drawn to the brightest part of the photo. Are we just programmed as humans to be drawn into the light? Well, in this case, yes. So using light to create contrast in the photo can help you to grab the eyeballs of the viewer by making your subject the brightest part of the picture. Everything that is darker usually won't grab their attention so much. Usually I will use this principle in my editing as well, so I will use masks or vignetting to make some parts of the image darker that I don't want to be as obvious and draw the person's eye to, and maybe brighten up other parts of the image. Next is color. Have you ever seen a photo that was like all blue with a pot of yellow? Those colors look great together, right? That's because they're complementary colors, which means they're on the opposite sides of the color wheel. And I bet your eye was drawn straight to that pop of yellow. Using colors can help to draw the viewer's eye to a specific point, like when we're using contrast. And it can also just create a really dynamic and visually pleasing image. So color is pretty simple. It's just playing around with complementary colors or even other colors that you want to experiment with, and just drawing people into your photo by the creative use of color. Now we get to the rules of composition, which, after thinking about it for quite some time, I realized is really just the rule of shapes. Pretty much just means find some shapes in the scene. So there is a whole lot of different rules of composition that photographers have made up since the beginning of time, but a few of them are leading lines, framing, rule of thirds, triangles, and symmetry. So if we look at leading lines first, that's just finding a line in the image in your photo that leads up to the most awesome part of your photo. So it could be a beautiful sweeping road, which is a wiggly line, leading up to a beautiful mountain scene. Then we get to framing, which is very self-explanatory, but it's pretty much taking a shape and framing your subject with it. It could be a square, a rectangle, a circle, it could be anything. You could find a window to frame a person with, or a cave to frame a beautiful landscape scene with, or an archway, or even a hole in a piece of fabric. It could be anything, but when you apply placing something around your subject, it is drawing the viewer's eye into that subject. Okay, so next is rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is pretty much when you break up your rectangular frame or photo into 9 squares by drawing 4 lines, 2 horizontally and 2 vertically, to break up your photo. Now, when you place the awesome parts of your photo along those lines, then that is supposed to create a really beautiful, awesome looking photo. So sometimes I like to place the horizon line of a landscape along one of the horizontal lines, or I like to place a person on one of the vertical lines and maybe intersecting with one of the horizontal lines. Next is triangles. So pretty much look for triangles in your photo, like mountains, rivers that lead to the mountain. Sometimes you can literally find like 20 triangles in your photo. Sometimes people like to pose people in shapes like this, where it creates lots of triangles, or this. It's up to you. So just go crazy with making those triangles. To be honest, this isn't one that I think about a lot, but if you look at a lot of my photos, there are a whole lot of just naturally occurring triangles that, to be honest, I didn't do intentionally. And the last rule of composition I'm going to talk about today is the rule of symmetry. And that also is pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes photos look beautiful when they're symmetrical. You think of a beautiful landscape with a lake in the foreground with a beautiful mountain reflecting into the lake. Usually people are like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful, when they see that kind of shot. Even better when it's like sunrise or sunset and the colours in the sky are beautiful and they're reflecting off the lake. And symmetry also kind of leads into balance, and in a photo in general it looks better if the photo is more balanced and it's not heavy with lots of stuff on one side and then nothing on the other side, if that makes sense. Now, I've given you a bunch of tools to use in your toolbox, but the last thing you want to do is grab all the tools at once and let loose, because that is guaranteed to end up in disaster. Now, if I were you, I would grab the lowest hanging fruit. Look at everything we've talked about, and if you've forgotten already, I've made a cheat sheet for you that I will link up below, but just pick the easiest thing first. Maybe for you that is leading lines. So next time you go on a shoot, look around you for what you could use as a leading line to lead into your photo or lead into an interesting subject. Or if you're planning a shoot, plan to go somewhere that you know has like a beautiful straight road or sweeping road that will work as a beautiful leading line into a mountain. And if you're going to stand in the middle of the road to get the shot, please don't get run over. And then once you've nailed that, you got the hang of leading lines, then move on to the next thing. Maybe give framing a go. Don't forget though that this is just a starting point to help you with your composition. They may be called the rules of composition, but sometimes the rules are there to be broken. And you are an artist. Use your intuition, your creative instinct, your creativity, and experiment with different compositions. Never stop experimenting, because that's how you're going to create your best photos. All the photographers these days are talking about the latest and greatest toys and what aperture your lens goes to, and oh, you can only shoot in manual mode. But the truth is that if you can nail your composition, none of that really matters at all. Composition has the potential to instantly transform your photos from average to amazing. And it's super simple to master. You could literally transform your photo in 1 second by just moving your camera slightly. So what are you waiting for? Grab your camera and go try out your new magic powers now. Don't be one of those people that sits there for hours learning about how to take the perfect photo, and then by the time you get out there, you've forgotten everything that you learned. I know that's not you though. So grab your camera right now, get out there, and when you get back, watch this video on editing in Lightroom so that you can harness the power of amazing editing to make your photos grab even more eyeballs. Thanks so much for watching to the end, and don't forget to grab your free cheat sheet below.